This week, part one of our exclusive interview with the nation's top producing HECM originator, George Vrban. More after this short message.
Building relationships is the way Mutual of Omaha has grown into one of the leading financial services companies in the world. Our reverse mortgage wholesale division is proud to carry on this 100-plus year tradition. To your borrowers, a reverse mortgage is more than a transaction. It's a promise of a better, more stress-free life. Our goal is to provide you, our valued client, with the best service and support possible so you can focus on helping your borrowers achieve the retirement of their dreams.
Welcome back to the Industry Leader Update. Since 2009, HECM origination volumes have fallen sharply. Sure, there were some fiscal years when volume did bounce back, but modestly. However, HECM volumes fell to a 20-year low in fiscal year 2024, which we closed out just last month. All this can lead one to ask, are there any HECMs out there to be closed? Challenges notwithstanding, there actually are. And there's one gentleman whose progress I've watched closely over many years, and that's George Vrban. And if you haven't heard of George before, well, it's likely because he's been very busy prospecting and closing HECM loans. George, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you began originating reverse mortgages?
So thank you so much. I appreciate it, Shannon. Listen, I'm privileged to be on the show and actually get a chance to chat with you a little bit about this. And, any contribution I can help people out there in the industry, give maybe a couple different perspectives to help them out, I'm more than happy to help out. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I've been in the business close to 20 years. I actually, I still remember this day back in, I think it was 2006. There was a guy named Tim Frederick. I don't know if you remember him, Shannon. He walked through my door and he asked me to run the division on the East Coast with, it was Genworth Financial back in the day. So I was the first HECM sales manager for, back in the day, around that time frame. And Genworth ended up being bought out by Liberty. It's and obviously part of Aquin. So I literally ran the sales division back for Liberty back in the old days. But I was a broker. I actually, believe it or not, in 2002, I came in, I did subprime loans. I was not a big fan of that industry. The one thing that really made it attractive for me is when I heard about reverses back in 2005, 2006, I was from the old school senior lending network. Those guys, I was really intrigued. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to help a lot of seniors out with this particular product. So I got excited. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to focus on HECMs. And that's all I've been doing for the last roughly close to 20 years now. So some great people I met, by the way, too. So if they're listening, everybody from Tim to Bill D'Onofrio, Adrian Prieto, Shannon Robinson, I can go Melanie, Barbara Sika. There's a whole bunch of people that we've had great relationships back in the day. Luigi, there's some good friends of mine. So yeah, that's the benefit of this industry too. It's a small industry. Everybody knows everybody. So that's the nice thing about this business as well.
Well, good shout out, especially to Bill D'Onofrio. According to HUD data, since 2020, you've closed 460 loans. Is that correct, or am I just misreading the data?
No, that's accurate. I've been blessed. It's really interesting how this all started for me. I'll just tell you a quick story. In 2000 it was about 2017, 2016, somewhere in there. I actually was at Nirmala and in San Francisco, and I was looking for a change. I was looking to figure out what company to go work for, but there was no positions. All their existing positions were taken in management. I mean, I went to FAR, I went to RFS back in the day. They were called RFS, and a lot of the guys out there, but there was really nothing available. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if you remember this guy. His name is Dan Holquist, the guru of HECM information, right? Oh. So Dan, I've known Dan for many years, and he came up to me and he goes, "Hey, George, there's a guy named Harlan, and he's over there in the Wisconsin area, but he's looking for help at Fairway back in the day." So that's what happened. Dan introduced me to Harlan, and I came over there. And what was interesting is I came there intentionally to help him build the division from the management perspective. And he actually is the one that convinced me. And he goes, George, actually what we need is somebody to be out there to be the leader in the field and just lead by example. We need somebody that can pave the way out there. And I really fought it. I mean, and then my wife kind of helped me convince me, hey, George, maybe you need to, why don't you switch gears and just focus on production? Everything you've been teaching all the loan officers and reverses, let's see if you can go ahead and do it yourself. Just do it, go out there and make it happen. So that's how it started. So about 8 years ago, what I did was I literally, between goal setting, creating a business plan, listening to Harlan, getting some really good information from him, I changed gears. I literally switched gears. I hit the road literally 6 hours a day, traveling the whole state of Florida, speaking to financial planners. I worked on my craft. I mastered my presentation. I started with 1 or 2 financial planners, went to 5, 10, 30, 50. And before you know it, I became what I believe is an expert in experience as far as working now specifically with financial planners in the industry today.
So how are you approaching these financial professionals? Because I know for many in our industry, it's intimidating unless you come from a financial services background.
Well, I'm going to share this with you. I mean, a lot of people kind of be shocked at this, but in the last 8 years, you know how many cold calls I physically have made in the last 8 years?
I have no idea.
I probably only made about 2.
Really?
Everything I do is networking. Everything I do is relationship building. I have not done social media. I'm just a good old fashioned, I put the boots on the street. I go out there, I talk to people, I present, and I use other people as a way to introduce me to other people to create what they call a warm lead, right? Or a warm opportunity to speak to people. So I already have my foot in the door. I don't have to worry about gatekeepers and all the other stuff, because once I make that connection, they want to go ahead and talk to me, and I show them some creative ways some strategies to help people out. So
when you're saying strategies, and this is something I'll admit it, I've been on a soapbox for the last few months about not selling a loan, but selling a solution or how the loan fits into that puzzle. So what are some of the potential retirement problems or solutions that you are presenting or discussing with these financial professionals?
Well, for me, it's all about understanding the story, right? It's fortunately a lot of people in our industry, you ever hear of diarrhea of the mouth? Sometimes we do too much talking and we just physically, people will try to talk about rates and talk about costs and try to go into their spiel, but step back. We have to literally be a good listener and find out what are the needs of the client. And if you truly understand this product works, it can be used as a Swiss Army knife and solve a lot of problems out there today. And we can create more opportunity to where customers will feel comfortable with you because you're being solution conscious, like you said, Shannon. So you're trying to figure out how to tie it all in together, but you can't do that until you find out what the target is. What is the problem that we were dealing with? Is it cash flow, for example? Is it do they have a lot of money sitting in qualified funds? Is it have to do with some repairs that they have to physically do? We got to investigate. You have to inspect what you expect, and then you go ahead and turn around and figure out how can this be the solution then to help them out with this particular situation.
So what's the typical response from a financial advisor? And you built that relationship, you have that warm introduction, and then you begin talking about the creative ways that a HECM can be used in retirement planning. How do they respond to that once they hear you explain that?
Well, they're no different than a customer. That's the biggest thing. The biggest thing that people have to do too with financial planners is you have to educate these people. It's no different than a customer that you're talking to. Again, when you speak with financial planners, they're going to go ahead and find out, does this person have the ability and the skill set to explain this product correctly? Do they have the confidence? Can I trust that person to speak to my clients? Nobody's going to just hand over a database of talk to my clients because their name is on the hook. Yep. So you have to be coming from an experience level to where you can provide solutions and help the financial planner. End game is to protect and push the assets under management a lot further into retirement. My goal is to show how to include housing wealth as part of this retirement strategy to push the cash out as far as possible.
So do you look at things such as long-term care, Roth conversions, things like that?
I look at everything. I mean, I live everything you can think of. My background is, by the way, I graduated with a finance degree. I know the lingo. I talk to the financial planners. I know exactly what they're looking for, what they're talking about. It could be anything from traditional IRAs to long-term care strategies to conversions to sequence returns risk to, there's so many. It goes on and on and on, but I'm prepared. I literally, it's like a whiteboard of bullet points of what do I need to cover with financial planners in my head when I hear their story too, because I want to investigate and find out about them too. I want to see what do they specialize in? What do they do? I don't go into my spiel just to talk about reverse. I got to find out what do they do and what do they specialize in? It's no different than a customer. It's the exact same thing.
Exactly. And too often, I feel that originators are tempted to say, hey, let's go over the features and benefits of the HECM. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter until you can connect it to their situation.
Exactly. You got it. And you know, I've been blessed. So as I, built this craft and built this business, I started building and I got to 40 closings in 6 months. And I did everything by myself. So I was doing the paperwork. I do the processing. The transaction part. I would do everything start to finish, and I would be coming home late at midnight when I first started this thing. But then Harlan also got me this great book, and we were talking about some of the different books out there today as far as basically finding, and Coach Kevin McGovern, he's also one of the coaches here that I use, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the business plan, as part of the business plan, as I started developing this, was developing a process, right? Once I get to that certain volume, well, then I'm going to have to figure out how to let go of a lot of stuff that I normally used to do myself. I used to fight that all the time with Harlan. I was a control freak. Harlan was the one that kept drilling, George, you got to let it go. You got to let somebody else do that part. Well, slowly but surely, I started, eventually listened to him, and I started creating my own team of people to figure out what part of the loan process can I eliminate on my end to where I'm focused strictly on producing and presenting all the time. So that's how I kind of shifted gears, and I took it from 40, 60, 80, over 100 a month, over 100 a year now for the last 3 years. And this is how I got to that particular point. I created a lot of activity. People always ask me, hey, how do you do, 10 a month, right now for this long? I didn't do this. It wasn't because of what I did yesterday. It was something I built 8 years ago. Yeah. So this is something, it's a business. It's a craft. It's something that you got to work at. I call it decision, commitment, and action. You create your business plan, you goal set, you make a decision. This is what you really want to do. Number 2, you make a commitment that you're going to follow through with it. In action, you got to go out there and work. Most people are trying to do this from backseat of their car or as far as backseat of their chair. It doesn't work that way. If you can get away with it, great. But man, you got to get out there too. You got to go out there and talk to people and get your name out there and figure out how to present, because the more people get to know you, they're going to send those referrals to you, because that's the only person they know that's doing this stuff out there.
Absolutely. And you've built that trust over time. So what does your typical day look like, George, when you've got a team now? Are you talking to each of these homeowners yourself, or is someone else doing that?
No. I talk to the homeowners. I have to find the story out. I want to be the solution.
Folks, that concludes part 1 of our interview with George Vrban. Be sure to return next week, where we'll have the conclusion and we'll talk about how you can build a business plan and the other steps involved to taking those stepping stones to success. Don't forget to share this video on your LinkedIn profile, and we do have a YouTube channel where you want to make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell, by the way, that way you never miss an upcoming episode. And each and every week, we bring you the latest reverse mortgage news on HECM World Weekly, which you can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, and Podbean. Thanks again for joining us, and be sure to come back next week for more reverse mortgage news, commentary, analysis, and yes, exclusive interviews you'll only find here at HECM World.